The Batman Who Laughs, Batman Last Night on Earth, Power of 10, and some Funkos. All this and more on this
Hey
installment of
guys,
the
welcome
Bucket
back
Think.
to the Bucket Think Tank. So I'm actually a bit tired. I really am. I've had a very long week, and even the books that came out this week weren't really worth talking about. Um, I can sum them. There were only like two of them, three maybe that I enjoyed, but none of it which felt like they were worth talking about. And that doesn't make sense. I get it from a guy that reviews comic books on the internet. You should probably be reviewing everything. So I'm gonna review three of them, and then I'm probably gonna show all these Funko Pops off. So let's talk about it. The Batman Who Laughs finally finished, and this is very much a story for, I think, fans of the Joker and fans of the deconstructive nature of the Batman and Joker. I was probably a fan of it 3 years ago. I probably was. I'm not as big a fan of it as now because I just sort of see it everywhere every time the Joker shows up. We have to. It feels like writers are very focused on trying to write a definitive Joker story. Like ever since the Killing Joke came out, we've got to go bigger. We've got to go more interesting. We've got to try to leave a version of the Joker out that is unique to us, like unique to the writer. And sometimes that's great, and in smaller increments it's probably great. But every time I see the Joker now, I often see people trying to like, well, this is this take on the Joker, and this is how he operates with Batman. And to be fair, Snyder's Joker, I think, very good, but he feels a bit too larger than life, and I'm a bit tired of larger than life Joker, which is why I sort of like the Detective Comics story that we had last week, where he's just a dude, just a dude, and the game is pretty simple. He does a thing, and people die, and then Batman stops me. I like it. I like Return to Simplicity. This story does have a lot of, again, deeper elements to it, and I'm probably not the person equipped to really deconstruct this story because I'm just so tired of deconstructing the Joker. Next up is the Batman, not is Batman Last Night on Earth. This is issue 2, and what's really cool about this story is that it does sort of it spends a lot of time trying to show you exactly where all of our characters are. Well, not even all of them, just sort of how the world is in the events of this being known as Omega came in and just sort of wrecked things. And we see there are Speed Force hurricanes going through, and in those hurricanes are actually speedsters. They can't get out; they're stuck. They might just be not just the Speed Force has been destroyed. Presumably, all the other forces are the Sage Force, the Still Force. Those have probably been destroyed as well. There's no red, there's no green. These elements of nature that keep things going. Those have been destroyed. Lex Luthor has been trying to create a Superman by trying to drag different rockets that are supposed to carry him in, carry a sleeping Kal-El to Earth. He's trying to pull those out so we can take at least some of their DNA to make one. And he reveals that exactly what happened that led to Superman going, well, Superman's dead. And what happened was Lex and Superman were having this huge debate, like before the world. Like they were trying to convince the world that their viewpoint was right. So Lex is trying to convince people that Doom is the right way. Superman trying to prove like, no, justice is the right way. People sided with Superman. The the agreement was whoever failed would die, and that these spikes would come up and would kill them. And Lex figured, oh, Superman's going to save me, so it's win freaking win. Either I do it or I don't, and I'm good. And what happened is Superman is killed instead. Like the blades, like the reaction to kill Superman happens instead of the reaction to kill Lex. So Superman doesn't save Lex. Superman is just killed. And then we're met by who we can only assume are followers of Omega, who, and this is Bane with a sort of skeleton-like version of the Scarecrow, just holding onto his back. And that's interesting. There's a certain horror aspect to this that Snyder's very good at. I think it was there in Batman Who Laughs, but I think it's better here because it's not as over the top, sort of very grounded. And what I liked about this is sort of the idea that Batman thinks he knows Omega. He thinks he knows who this person is, and I think we're supposed to be led to believe that this Omega might actually be the Bruce Wayne, the child Bruce Wayne from the Batman Who Laughs comic. So, in that comic, and I forgot to tell you this, but so bear with me, the young Bruce that we saw in the previous issue was running off. Alfred found him and said, like, look, one day you're going to go to the movie theater. Actually, he was apparently supposed to go that weekend. He says, don't go. Just stay home with your parents and everything will be fine. And that Bruce Wayne gets to keep his parents. So if this Bruce Wayne becomes Omega, then that tells you exactly how twisted and messed up Batman's life actually is. That even at his best, he becomes a monster. So, yeah, overall, fun. It's hard to tell where this book is going, but it feels like a more fun ride, and I'm all for that. Next is House of X, not House of X, Powers of X. So Powers of X is the second book Hickman's writing along in his X-Men run. And what's cool about Powers of X is, well, I have no idea what's going on. I'm just going to tell you right now. Powers of X, or Powers of 10, as it's called, like the X is supposed to represent 10, is told in 3 different time periods. One is an undisclosed time period involving Charles Xavier. The other is, well, actually, technically 4. Although I think the one with Charles Xavier meeting the woman is part of the one going into House of X. And in the House of X timeline, we find out that, hey, at some point, the thing that Mystique was doing, she was doing on orders from Magneto, which were approved by Professor X. And it's weird that in this particular example, not only is Charles supporting this, but Mystique doesn't like the idea of Krokus. She doesn't like this paradise. And maybe it's because she knows exactly what is being done here. And as Charles says, utopia does not come about simply. It's not an easy thing. And every mutant who wants to be part of this will have to do their share. So that was interesting. Then we go 100 years into the future where apparently maybe things have gotten better, things have gotten worse, but presumably a bunch of humans who just don't like mutants go off into space and they trade their humanity to become, I guess, their own version of Sentinels, and they're fighting the mutants, and the mutants can't reproduce properly. They can't actually share their genetics, their mutant powers with offspring, which means by default that mutants are not the next step of human evolution. Because a big part of evolution would be that you can pass on your traits to children, and they can't, so therefore they're not the next stage. So they've sort of created like chimeras along these lines. What they've done is they've pretty much taken their powers, their DNA, and fused them into different new mutants, which seems kind of gross and kind of sad in a lot of ways. And then we go to 1,000 years later with this sort of same story to see the war is still going on. So it does sort of reveal the futility of the X-Men. The fact that this isn't really something that will ever truly end, even when you create paradise. And this is sort of the suspension of disbelief you have to take with the X-Men books. That somehow things just don't get better for the X-Men. It just doesn't. Even though, logically, no one's ever really properly handling the X-Men. Like, there should be a registration for mutants. I know it sounds bad, but would you honestly feel safe knowing that there are people who can control your mind out there? Right? People like Professor X. Professor X is the exception to the rule. Jean Grey goes crazy randomly. There are people that can just... there's people like Rogue. She doesn't need to be on a registry, but she does, I think, need help. Like, the mutant solution is a bit too extreme for what it wants to do with the civil rights argument. But overall, those were the 3 books that I read that I actually felt were worth talking about. So let's go with some Funkos. We probably won't reveal all of them. We'll just reveal a couple of them. Plo Koon from Star Wars. So I got this at my local comic book shop, Angry Comics, and I like Plo Koon as a character. He's always been pretty interesting. I've actually gained more appreciation from him, not from the Clone Wars series, but from the Star Wars Versus community. That's a thing. That's a thing. If you want something a bit more sophisticated than Death Battle, but with a bit more grounded sense to it, look up Star Wars Versus. Look at those people. Plo Koon versus Shock T is actually a really good one. Dr. Benjamin Franklin. So, for those of you that don't know, Dr. Benjamin Franklin is actually one of my favorite figures in American history. He's just really cool. I just like him. I like these on the $100 bill. That's actually, like, I think my 5th reason for liking him. I like him because he's actually one of the funniest writers in American history, at least for the time period. I mean, he's witty. I love his inventions. I loved his final address to the Congress when he stepped down, which pretty much said, like, guys, it's all right to doubt yourself. You should. All right. You don't have. It's okay to doubt your infallibility. All right. You're not infallible. I liked his approach to slavery, which was he supported slavery, and then he found out that, hey, turns out, you guys told me black kids couldn't learn. Turns out they can. Therefore, they're intelligent. Therefore, we can't enslave them. I love that approach to it. It shows an important thing about history, which is that people can learn and grow. And I just like that. I just like that about his character. The fact you can change your mind when you come across new information is a really cool thing. Let's see. I want to do two more. Here we are. So, Tai from Digimon Season 1, or Digimon Adventure 1. So, Tai is actually, I think, still my favorite Digidestined. I was pretty excited when I saw this one was available. Because I'm not sure if you guys read the V-Tamer manga, but Tai to me has always been sort of he's a unique shonen protagonist because he's not super hyperactive and he's not stupid. He's a bit simple, but he does sort of take his leadership position pretty well, and when he makes a mistake, he doesn't often make the same mistake again, which I think is a big trait for shonen protagonists. Like, often they'll make the same mistake. And also, I just love the goggles. I just legitimately love his goggles. And the V-Tamer manga, what's really interesting about him in the V-Tamer manga is that was supposed to be, if I could be wrong, my exact facts here, but the V-Tamer manga was the prototype Digimon, which is weird because it's just Tai wearing a cloak, and he's actually really good at strategies. And his Digimon partner Zero is not Agumon, but was the basis for Agumon. And just seeing him trap, if you play the first Digimon game for the PlayStation, it's pretty much a similar story. And I just liked Tai. Like, Tai's awesome. Tai and Sora should have been a thing. Fight me. And finally, we need one more. Here we are. Dr. Emmett Brown from Back to the Future. So, I like Doc Brown. He's actually my favorite character in Back to the Future. There's only like 3 characters in Back to the Future, so it's not saying much. It's Doc, Marty, this time's version of Biff. Oh, but also this version of Marty's mom. So yeah, that's sort of it. But Doc to me is sort of like the definitive super excited side, like, right, Scott Marty, and he's like, everything is so intense and amazing to him, and I love it. Like, science is just something he does. He lives for it. We don't quite know what he does any other time. I think he just wakes up and he does science, which means probably along with Ben Franklin. Actually, probably wouldn't. Ben Franklin also liked to party. He did. Ben Franklin loved the ladies. And he loved good food, he loved good company, he loved to flirt. That was Ben Franklin. Well, with that in mind, we'll bring this video to a close here. Again, really sorry about this low energy one, but I just need to sleep. And I'm gonna go to sleep. And we'll show off more Funkos later, and we'll have a more energetic review next time, I promise. So with that in mind, we'll bring this video to a close here. If you're new to the Bug Thing, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. Smash that thumbs up button. I'm way more energetic doing other videos, I promise. And I will catch you all later. This is the Bug Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching, and as always, may your fandom serve you well.